Heading into the 2022-2023 NBA season, I have been going over the top 10 players at each position. Thus far, we have done the point guards. Each list will be based on an importance factor a player has to his team, as well as skill compared to other players in his position. Always remember, lists like this are purely subjective, meant to get the conversation started, and will almost never be the same as anyone else's. This is all entertainment. Don't kill me for my list if you disagree. I'm just a guy. If you have anyone different that would be on the list, always comment below. Y'all already know we the best hoop discussion channel on the tube, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for your boy, because I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year, and it would absolutely mean the world to me if I achieve this girl. But without further ado, let's jump into it. At number 10, we got CJ McCollum. After a somewhat successful 8+ seasons with Portland, CJ has had some time under his belt with the new team in New Orleans, where he is likely the sole vet leader. As a Pelican, CJ averaged 24.3 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, and 6 assists, while shooting 50% from the floor and 40% from behind the arc. Before getting traded to New Orleans, this was a team that was middle of the pack with a record of 22-32. When CJ was added to the lineup, they rose to playoff contention immediately. They closed the season with a 14-14 record and edged out the Lakers for a play-in spot and playoff appearance. Them making the playoffs speaks to not only CJ's importance to this team, but his leadership ability for this young team. CJ can do just about everything for this team at an elite level, but as a leader of this locker room primarily, I'm excited to see what the Pelicans can do with a healthy Zion, BI, and a healthy young core that's hungry. At number 9, I got Tyrese Maxey. Now, the reason I have Tyrese at the 2 position is because I truly believe Harden will be at the 1 majority of the year. And it was crazy to see the way Tyrese took off last year, especially the way he fell on draft night to the 21st pick. Tyrese is the perfect guy to show how important it is in the modern NBA to have a bucket-getting guard who can score efficiently from the 3 while scoring well at the cup. Maxey is a lightning-quick guy that can do both exceptionally well. His backcourt companion in James Harden is not on this list, but I think it's important to state, like I said before, I think he's going to be in more of a PG role, which is why he was on that video. The fact that in his last campaign, Maxey was able to elevate his game from the regular season to the tune of 21 points per game, 4 assists per game, over 12 games, shooting 48% and 37 from deep, speaks volumes for his future and potential. This season for Maxey in the beginning seemed to be one where he coasts and learns, and then the next year come back even better than the year prior. But the difference in Maxey and other players, it was almost like a light switch was flipped in the middle of the season, and all of a sudden he gets it and now is ready to explode. Maxey is also a very underrated passer, and confidence isn't shy with him. He needs to get a bit better on the defensive end, but that'll come with time and age. I expect big things out of him for this contending Sixers team, and this may be a hot take, but besides Joel Embiid, I think Maxey will lead this team in points per game. At number 8, we got JB. For years, I haven't been able to rank Jalen Brown properly. The year I think he is just outside the top 10 at his position, he proves me wrong. The years I think he's very clearly in the top 10, he shows me he hasn't quite reached that level. This year, I'm confident in saying he is in the bottom 10 with potential to make it to the top 5 by the end of the year. Not only did he have his most efficient year this past year, but I'd say it was his most consistent of all years, and there's nothing more he'll do with age than become more efficient. The scoring ability is already there, and this year more than others, JB had to deal with questions regarding his future in a Celtic uniform. I stated this in my Celtics preview video, Jalen Brown isn't quite a superstar, is better than a role player while also being a touchable asset for the franchise that would be a piece for a uber superstar like a KD like he was this offseason. The way he's handled the trade rumors has been amazing thus far, but this year no more than any other, it seemed very real for a few weeks that he would be out the door. And in this case, it would have been for KD, which that can be a compliment to Jalen Brown if looked at in a certain light. JB acted as the team's second best scorer during their finals run, and oftentimes outperformed Jason Tatum in the postseason. Through his postseason play, I expect the trade rumors to die down a bit more as he's shown what his value to this team can be, but that doesn't happen when you have a megastar like KD being up on the trade block. Brown averaged 23 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 3.5 assists while shooting 47% from the floor and 35% from 3. What's the most fantastic thing about Jalen Brown and the reason why I'm a fan of his is because he came into the league most notably known known for his defense, and people thought he was going to be a primary lockdown defender coming into this league, but he's grown his offense to the point where he could be considered a top 5 3-and-D player in the league right now and be a threat anywhere on the court. He still needs to improve some in his ball handling, which was something that was a bit exposed when they played against the Warriors and they forced the ball out of Jason Tatum's and Marcus Smart's hands, but he will improve, and I expect the same high level play coming into his 7th year into the league. At number 7, I got Donovan Mitchell. Going into this season, Donovan Mitchell will be a member of the Cavaliers. A 3-time All-Star like Mitchell, like any 2-guard in the league, is well adept at shooting from anywhere on the floor, whether that's off the dribble or a set position. Mitchell's first step is dynamic for how undersized he is, and his leaping ability at his size is amazing to marvel at as well. He relies on his jumper a bit more than one would like, as he doesn't get to the free throw line as much, but that also is a strength because it speaks to his scoring ability despite not seeing the charity stripe as much as other players. Last season, he averaged 26 points per game, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1.5 steals while shooting 45% from the field. He's joining a young Cavs team that had nothing short of a surprising year last year, blowing away expectations. There's no telling on whether Donovan will be here long term or if he even wants to be there long term, but there is absolutely no doubt about what his production can bring to this team, how much it can help them to compete in the East. A lot of people are saying him joining this team makes them a top 3 backcourt in the league, not just the East, the league. The Cavs arguably do have a top 3 backcourt in the East, in my opinion. In the league, I'm not sure about that, but with the addition of Donovan Mitchell, a championship might be at its most obtainable position for Spida and the Cavs, since not only he's entered the league, but since LeBron has left the Cavs. This seems like a perfect match made in heaven, and it all comes down to how this team deals with Donovan Mitchell. It could very easily be a type of situation where he leaves the same way Kawhi did. Kawhi was traded to the Raptors, brought them a ring, and left. Now, I don't know that Donovan Mitchell will bring the Cavs a ring, but do we know he wants to stay in Cleveland? And that's a big question. And the reason it's a big question is because we need to know, is this championship or bust for the Cavs, or are they still looking to build or buy after this? We'll see how the season goes, and only time will tell. At number 6, we got that boy Klay Thompson. Now, Klay Thompson, it's almost impossible for him to fall out of the top 10 shooting guards in the league, and the Klay we saw come back this season was a sight for sore eyes. Klay hadn't seen the NBA floor for meaningful minutes in about 2 years, and to see him grace the Warriors floor was nothing short of amazing. However, that Klay that we got wasn't the Klay we're used to and isn't the Klay we expect. I know he's getting old, but bear with me. He wasn't able to reach the numbers he was at prior to injury, but he was getting his legs back under him, and with a prolonged season with the finals championship, I'd say Klay has had enough time to get back right and his legs back under him. Like I said, he was a bit streaky in his return, but for the first time in 2 years, his numbers painted an impressive picture. Arguably the best spot-up shooter ever and arguably a top 10 two-way player of all time, Klay averaged 22 points per game, 4 rebounds on 38.5% from 3 in the regular season, and in the playoffs he averaged 19 points and 1 steal on the exact same shooting percentage. His defense was a step slower, which we expect due to lower extremity injuries, especially ones like a torn ACL, and his spot-up shooting fell a bit in the playoffs. But Klay's gravity is still felt in every single game he is in, which we know opens up the floor for guys like Steph and Wiggins to flash to a bucket and get some good off-ball work, as the Warriors are amazing at doing. We're gonna see it a lot more with guys like Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and other athletic guys cutting to the basket, because the threat of Klay Thompson and Steph Curry is so scary that so many other people are gonna get opportunities, backdoor cuts, lobs in the case of Jonathan Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins, and this team is gonna be special. They never rebuild, they retool. One thing that never wavers despite a leg injury is that shooting ability, and I believe this year Klay will be back to his old self, at least offensively, and the Warriors are gonna compete to at least be a 2P and make that happen. You're gonna see this, and I'm gonna say it now. I started the recording at work, so we had to take our business clothes off. So let's get into the top 5. At number 5, we got that boy Bradley Beal. Now, Brad Beal could probably have gone above Klay, meaning 6, Klay is 5. But the only reason he didn't was because this is Klay's first full season back, And we need to see what Klay looks like in an 82 game stretch before just jumping him on the list, because this list is primarily built off of last season, not a player's career as a whole. Bradley Beal is a straight dog, and we know this, but he's a dog that seems to be running from the grind. The infamous story behind Beal is that he's willing to stay in Washington despite knowing for a fact they're not really going to compete, and essentially wasting his best years there. Beal's play last season was disappointing, at least to his standards, to say the least, and after averaging 30 plus points per game in the prior 2 seasons, Beal just put up 23 points per, 4.7 rebounds, 6 assists, and shooting 30% from 3 in just 40 games played. Although injury more than likely factored into him not having the most stellar of seasons, Beal attacked the rim a lot less than years past and saw the free throw line just 5 times a night, which is his lowest mark since 2018. The biggest question and why Beal isn't going to ever really be higher is how far can this team go with him as the best player? With the Wizards missing the playoffs in 3 of their last 4 seasons, we may already have the answer to that now. Some say Beal is just showing loyalty the same way Dame is in Portland, but we can at least say Dame has gone much further in the playoffs than Beal has in recent years, and the West is much harder than the East ever has been. The Wizards were relatively no shot, and Beal is content being there with a team that has no shot. They're never going to be a bad team, but they'll never be a real threat in the East, and that seems to be synonymous with Bradley Beal's ranking in this top 5. He's number 5, middle of the pack. He's a great player, but running from the grind, and I don't think he's ever going to be above 5. At number 4, I got Dejounte Murray. One of the most surprising offseason moves was Dejounte Murray's trade from the Spurs to the Hawks. He joins Trae Young and starts a new era in Atlanta, who may have a top 3 backcourt in the East as a result of this deal. After this deal, it feels like we've done nothing on this channel but talk about the Hawks every other week. You would almost think I'm a Hawks fan. It'll be dope to see this duo on the court because for the most part, where one is weak, the other is strong, and they complement each other almost perfectly. Dejounte is a great on-ball defender, rebounder, and on occasion can create for others having the ball in his hands. Murray is coming off of an all-star campaign in which he averaged 21 points per game, 9 assists, and 8.3 rebounds to go with the league-leading 2 steals, shooting a poor 30% from 3, which is a bit of concern, and questions on whether he's going to be the primary on-ball guy or the off-ball guy, which I would see him more in an on-ball situation, getting Trae Young more off the ball, coming off of screens, the same way you see Steph doing. Still, regardless, Dejounte Murray, he is a defensive anchor at the guard position and helps mask Trae's deficiencies on that end, while Young's shooting helps mask and open the floor for Murray. With Trae Young shooting, it allows Dejounte's slashing ability to open up and be able to be shown off at the level he can really show it off at, because he is uber athletic. This should be an exciting season for Hawks fans, and this backcourt will give Hawks fans a lot to look forward to. At the number 3 position, one of, if not the most explosive young 2 guards in the NBA we've seen in quite some time, Anthony Edwards has the potential to reach the top of this list by the end of the year, and truthfully, I think he will. He's that uber athletic, talented scorer that has already proven he belongs in just 2 years of action and looks extremely comfortable in his skin in the NBA already. This year, Ant-Man has an opportunity to lead the Timberwolves to heights no one really expects. They added Rudy Gobert to the squad, which allows Cat to play more of a perimeter role, which can open up a 2-man game with Gobert as a lob threat or a roll threat for Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards averaged 21 points per game, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists on 44% from the floor and 35% from 3. From a 20-year-old, those numbers are beautiful, but I will say he does need to improve in his efficiency. Anthony Edwards is already great at getting to the rim. That man's quick first step is on Hall of Fame. His badges is max, you can't do nothing with it, and then that limitless takeoff and posterizer, they on gold, about to be upgraded to Hall of Fame this year. So basically, watch your head, bro. That's all you gotta do when you guard an Ant-Man. Now, Edwards, I believe he takes the proverbial 3rd-year leap that we often talk about, and he's going to average closer to 25 points per game and maybe even more. His efficiency might not get spectacularly better, but he will improve some, and by the end of this year, we're gonna be talking about him as one of the best shooting guards in the league, period. The next player we have on the list who potentially might be the biggest role that he's seen for his team in a while, and that's going to be Zach LaVine. Zach fought through nagging injuries and a lack of help in the backcourt as his partner Lonzo Ball always dealt with knee trouble last year. And to top it all off, Alex Caruso also went down a couple times, but he did come back and was helping them guide the Bulls to the playoffs. This year we know Lonzo is not starting this season. He's having knee issues again, so it's going to be up to Caruso and LaVine to hold down that backcourt. Zach had a pretty good individual season despite the drop off production wise, but it makes sense when you bring in a guy like DeMar DeRozan and Vooch to the lineup. Still, his numbers were impressive, averaging 24 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 4.5 assists on 47, 38, and 85% shooting splits. A proven all-star at the 2, LaVine has shown he can score from all 3 levels, improving from each year. His ball handling has improved to match his freak athleticism. The only thing about him though, like Bill, how far can he take the team as the best player on the team? We'll have a better idea once we get a healthier Bulls team, but for now that remains to be seen. Now, one thing about Zach LaVine that has bothered me over the last couple years, it seems like you can see his play has changed through him fighting the allegations of just being another athletic slasher. I remember him being in Minnesota, he wasn't the best shooter, he wasn't the best playmaker or anything of that nature. He was just a high-flying young dude that could get to the rim and quick. But now it seems as if Zach LaVine has tried to prove a point to show he can hit difficult shots, he can take and make 3 over any and everybody, and it seems like he's gotten away from his biggest strength at its core, and that's just dunking over the top of everybody. I feel like if Zach LaVine can get back to his old self while mixing in some of those difficult shots, the 3-point opportunities and all that in the process, I think it'll do Zach LaVine some good. I just think the pressure of facing a slasher only kind of label, it's gotten to the point where we see Zach LaVine doing certain things that are away from his main strengths. Now we understand he's had some leg injuries, so that does take a bit away, but we have also seen Zach LaVine on a fast break and he looks bouncier than ever. So with that being said, get back to your slashing ability, work from that, and you could possibly be even greater than what you already are right now. At number 1, this one should come as no surprise to anybody. We got Devin Booker. Now, regardless of what you feel about Book, he is currently the best shooting guard in basketball, period. Last season ended in embarrassing fashion without question. This year is starting that same way. But let's not forget what we saw from Book all year last year. When CP went down before the All-Star break, Book went crazy and he displayed a playmaking ability I don't think we quite saw before. Whenever the Suns needed a bucket, it was Book who got to his spots and got that bucket. When the team needed the correct play, Book was on the head of it, becoming floor general while CP was out. Over the last couple years, we've seen Book evolve from a guy putting up numbers on a team going nowhere to a guy who is at the head of a team, a supreme high IQ playmaker, and a guy that's on a team that can really contend. He knows when to get a mid-range bucket versus driving through the lane. He knows when to kick the ball out to the corner for an open 3 for Cam Johnson. His first step off the dribble is something to marvel at, and he reads defenses much better than he did in the past despite hating doubles being thrown at him. Book, CP, and Coach of the Year Monty Williams have an amazing supporting cast in Phoenix. I don't expect anything less than a first-round exit this year. However, I am excited to see Devin Booker get buckets as he has for the last 7 years, and hopefully as a Lakers fan, my dream comes true and them falling short in the playoffs, flat on their face, rebuilding, and we have a new Sun squad for the next coming years. But that's all I got for you guys in this video. It is your boy TB as always with the greatest hoop stories and debates on the tube, and you already know what it is. I'm out. Peace.